What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another video, and in today's video we're going to be talking about Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. So the second Doctor Strange film is finally here, and we just have the absolute pleasure of having the director this time around being Sam Raimi, the man who pretty much kind of started it all in a lot of ways, having given us the 3 original Spider-Man films with Tobey Maguire, as well as being iconic for having created the Evil Dead series. This movie was written by Michael Waldron, who wrote the Loki series that just came out earlier this past year, and of course has returning cast of people like Benedict Cumberbatch, Benedict Wong, Elizabeth Olson, Chiwetel Ejiofor, Rachel McAdams, and is the first time appearance of a very young actress, I believe the youngest if I'm not mistaken, into the MCU. I don't know exactly how to pronounce her name, but I believe it's Xochitl Gomez. I'm not really sure. If I'm wrong, please do correct me down below. But yeah, she is introduced as the character of America Chavez. We have Danny Elfman composing the music here, and then people like John Matheson, who's doing the cinematography, who's giving us incredible work in terms of cinematography for films like Detective Pikachu, Logan, X-Men First Class, Kingdom of Heaven, and I mean the list goes on and on. And I want to make it abundantly clear before we get far into this that I know the hype people have around this film. I know the excitement, and if you decided to click on this and you're a little wary if I'm going to talk about spoilers, please, no worries. I will not be talking about any spoilers here in this video. I'm not even going to talk about what the premise of this movie is all about, because I feel like the trailers have been very vague with that. I really didn't know what this movie was really going to be about narratively, what the plot was going to be, other than, you know, just some of the basic kind of threads that you can make out from the trailer. But I will kind of talk about things that have come up to this point leading up to this movie, so I'm hoping you've at least seen the other MCU stuff. But this will just be a review of my thoughts on the movie, what I enjoyed about it, what I didn't like about it, and no spoilers whatsoever. Now, of course, if you guys know what this movie's about, if you've seen the trailer, then you know that this plays off of the events of Spider-Man No Way Home. And yeah, beyond being a follow-up to Spider-Man No Way Home in terms of its narrative, it's also an epilogue in a lot of ways to something like WandaVision, because of course we have Elizabeth Olsen coming back to reprise her role as Wanda, or Scarlet Witch, as we saw her become at the very end of WandaVision. And if you guys were watching my videos for WandaVision all that time ago, you know that when they finally made her Scarlet Witch in that show, I was beyond excited. She's a character that I've always loved from the comics, the animated series, or whatever she's ever popped up in, and I've always found her to be one of the coolest villains in all of the Marvel mythology. And the fact that the movies hadn't really tapped into the Scarlet Witch side of things always disappointed me. So to see where they were going with WandaVision and then leading into this with the trailers, I was incredibly excited, and I'm happy to say that she was great in the film. If you were a fan of WandaVision, I think you're really going to thoroughly enjoy this movie, because even though it is a Doctor Strange film, it's centered on Doctor Strange, dealing with Doctor Strange issues and everything that's going on with him, America Chavez, and Wong, and all these other characters. Yeah, this movie in a lot of ways is a follow-up to WandaVision and does give you a lot of closure from that narrative. So if you're a fan of that show, I do highly recommend checking out this movie on that level alone. Benedict Cumberbatch is probably the best he's ever been as Doctor Strange in this movie. You can just see him becoming more and more comfortable with this character as time goes on, and he's really just embodied the role in a way that it's going to be hard for anybody to top this character or this iteration of the character in any way, shape, or form in the future. So I'm loving what Benedict Cumberbatch brings to the table here. Benedict Wong is definitely a great, fun, and action-packed part of this movie. The whole movie overall is super action-packed. I enjoyed the choreography all over the place when it came to a lot of the martial arts fighting, and when it comes to all the big CG battle stuff, I thought that was all a lot of fun too. So yeah, they definitely give a lot more to Benedict Wong to do in this film. I think Benedict Cumberbatch again was fantastic. Elizabeth Olsen was great, and they give more to Rachel McAdams to do in this film, or they give her more to do in this film. But I will say that I'm a little disappointed with the role that they kind of gave her in this film overall. They gave her more to do, but once you see the movie, you'll know what I mean. I feel like they could have done more with her character and more just with her as an actress. I really enjoy Rachel McAdams, and I wish we could have seen more of her in this film. But, you know, that's a minor gripe, but, you know, I am, I guess, happier that they gave her more to do in this movie than in the last film. And in terms of comparison, I will say that I think I enjoyed the first Doctor Strange more, as far as a tight narrative with the beginning, middle, and end that I just enjoyed a little bit more. I liked this movie more in the sense of it being like a big interconnected MCU film. As an episode of the TV show that is the MCU, it was epic in a different way than the first film could be, but I feel like the first film did have a bit of a tighter narrative. And as I mentioned before, we have Sam Raimi in the director's chair this time around, coming back to direct a Marvel film for the first time since those original 3 Spider-Man films with Tobey Maguire. And I love that he teamed up once again with Danny Elfman to do the score, because there are so many elements about this movie that feel very much in line with those original 3 Spider-Man films. Of course, Spider-Man is, you know, not the focal point of this movie. That's not what this movie's about. It's a Doctor Strange movie, but there's just little moments in the score and the feel and the vibe of the film that definitely feel very similar to the kind of energy he was emulating in those films and putting on screen. And I really thoroughly enjoyed that element of this film, and just being able to hear Danny Elfman's score. And of course, anybody who's familiar with Sam Raimi, they know that, you know, again, with the Evil Dead series and other movies like, you know, Drag Me to Hell, he's, you know, been somebody who dabbles in horror. He started one of the most iconic horror franchises of all time. So when they initially announced this movie, and Kevin Feige, I believe it was Kevin Feige, had said something along the lines that they were going to kind of bring Marvel's first ever horror film, I was really excited to see what they would end up doing. And I'm happy to say that in the third act, there's definitely a lean into that horror element that Sam Raimi is known for, but I do wish they had gone a little further with it. In a lot of ways, this is a more traditional MCU film in the sense of its tone and its feel and its vibe, with darker elements at times that you can definitely see Sam Raimi was bringing in, you know, his little bit of energy and his style to horror into an MCU, very PG-13 kind of way of approaching one of these movies. And so, yeah, overall, I really enjoyed the acting. I really enjoyed the vibe, the action, the overall look of the film. A lot of those horror elements were really cool. There was never anything that was ever really creepy. It was just like, you know, taking the MCU and adding a little bit of a horror flair to it, a little bit of a sprinkling of horror. I kind of wish they had gone a little further with that element of the film, but overall, I still really enjoyed it. But one thing I definitely want to mention is I think it's important that we go in with tame expectations, because I actually recently did a prediction video over on my buddy Mike's Did You See That's channel, and I've just been talking to tons of people. And if you're anybody like me who just keeps up with things online, I'm sure you've seen countless rumors about things over the course of months, and a lot of those rumors had people thinking, what, like, how big and crazy is this movie going to be, with cameos and surprises and twists and turns? And there are plenty of twists and turns and cameos and surprises in this film, but not nearly as many as people were expecting, and not even close to some of the names and faces that people were expecting. So I think it's important going into this film that you kind of go in with tame expectations. You know, expect a good time, expect surprises, expect Marvel to give you that fan service that they're well known for, but don't go into this film expecting it to be like an Avengers Endgame level of epicness when it comes to surprises and cameos, because I do think that might have you feeling a little disappointed walking out of this movie. Overall, I enjoyed the film. Again, I think I like the first Doctor Strange more, but as an episode in the MCU that has a bunch of other players outside of Doctor Strange, it's hard to not enjoy this movie so much, because it was entertaining, it was jam-packed, it pushes the narrative of the MCU, and not just these characters, but the MCU overall, forward in a different direction. I'm really excited to see where they play off of this, what they do with this. There are 2 post-credit scenes, the first one being the more serious one that's teasing the future of characters, specifically with Doctor Strange, and then the second post-credit scene is a little bit more of a funny one, a little bit more of just like a silly stinger at the very end of the movie. So yeah, I don't want to say too much more about this, but I did find this to be a very well put together film that was really engaging, had a lot of great action and great visuals, very CG heavy, so if you're not into CG movies, I mean, honestly, it's a Marvel movie, so I'm assuming you don't watch these movies if you're not into CG. But yeah, I really enjoyed all the CG action and the martial arts action from time to time. There was great stunt work and visuals. There were a couple of moments where I felt like the characters were on green screen, and you kind of took me out of it, but not too many. And my biggest gripe that I would have to say about this film is that I found the first act of the film to be pretty rushed, with most of the visuals and things that we see in the trailer actually in that first like 30-40 minutes of the film, and there was an element of the first act that did feel rushed, like they were trying to get us somewhere narratively. But yeah, overall, once you got past that, outside of a couple slow moments here or there, I found the film to be well paced, engaging, entertaining, and yeah, I had a good time at the movie theater. So yeah, that's gonna be my thoughts on this movie. Can't wait to hear what you guys have to say. Did you like this movie? Did you not like this movie? Please leave any and all those comments down below, and yeah, I look forward to talking to you guys in the next one. Bye bye.